It's the most awaited podcast of the season, the annual Fred's Guys podcast, all coming up next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Jeff Erickson here with Fred Zinkie. We are brought to you by the NFBC, the RotoWire Online Championship, and FanTrax. As always, it's time, Fred. It's Fredcast. It's the guys that Fred Zinkie is drafting the most. People are lining up outside the door waiting to hear this one. They should be if they aren't. I know I am. I was furiously jotting down names for the end games of mine. In fact, I took one of your guys in TGFBI in round 29 just for that. We'll get to that. Who could that be? Spoiler. We're going to make you wait on that one there. But Fred, how you doing?
I'm good. As I mentioned to you, and I'll tell everyone now, I'm almost done drafting. So that's kind of a good feeling. I'm not usually a guy who wants to draft. Like, we'll see if I jump in one more league, but I don't think so. I'm not usually a guy who likes to draft like 2 or 3 days before the season. I'm pretty comfortable kind of wrapping up my last slow drafts now, and then start thinking about fab this weekend and then lineups and things like that. So yeah, good. Almost done drafting, and a little bittersweet because I love fantasy baseball draft season. But
yeah, I do too. I really do. I think it's super fun. The season hasn't given us our disappointments yet. Yeah, or validations for that matter. There's sometimes you get some validations too. You know, Edwin Encarnacion homering on opening day when you have multi-shares of them is always a beautiful thing. Yeah. Seeing the parrot. Yes, and I'm going back a while. So
yes, you are. Yeah.
Recently,
your most recent success, eh?
Yeah. But I am doing I'm doing my main event on Saturday in Vegas. I just got back from Tout Wars. I've got the RotoWire Staff Keeper League. Tomorrow night, I've got my home league Amiki, which started RotoWire back when it was Roto News even. That's on Sunday. So I still have a lot of drafting irons in the fire. So like I said, I'm furiously scribbling names down to try to get your guys. Let's just jump right into it here. These are the guys that you have drafted the most. Starting off, and you did this in labor, I know you did this, is Trea Turner is one of the guys that is one of your guys.
Yeah, so I saw this one coming. He comes out just when I did my projections, like really high. Like I could justify taking Trea Turner in the first round. So to me, he comes out as around in a 15-team league. To me, he comes out as around 1-2 turn guy. He's someone who can hit 290. He's someone who can score 100 runs. He's someone who can hit 25 homers. And I think he's still someone who can steal about 30 bases. He was on a nice steals pace at the start of the year, and then he got hurt. That injury seems to be behind him now. So you take a guy maybe like let's just say 25 homers, 30 steals, 100 runs, 290, and I think he could get a little bit over 100 runs. Like I say, it comes out when I do my SGPs like really high. So he comes out as someone who's sitting around the 1-2 turn with guys like Yordan Alvarez, Vladdy Guerrero, Jackson Chourio. I mean, that's what we're kind of looking for from Jackson Chourio, right? About 25 homers, about 30 steals, maybe 100 runs scored, a high average. So Turner's not the flashy guy anymore, but he keeps lasting till the second half of round 2. I often seem to have had picks this year in the middle of the draft, and I often end up with him in my second round. And then in Tout Wars, because it's an OBP league, I got him in the third round, which I think was fair. Like I obviously didn't take him in the second round, right, because of the OBP nature. But in the third round, I was excited to get him.
Yeah, I got Turner and Yogurt middle of the second round. I had the 7th pick when I had like 4 drafts in a row where I was drafting 7th. That was one of that stretch. Started off Gunnar Henderson, Trea Turner, and then went 3 pitchers, kind of similar to labor in the 3 pitchers part, where I went Crochet, Snell, and then Iglesias. I did the same in TGFBI as well. So, but about Turner, I'm on board with you there. I don't mind even going shortstop. As long as you're getting 2 elite ones there, I don't care that I'm doubling up at that position. The only thing that bothers me is like Dansby always hangs around too late, in my opinion. Yep. I like taking him later, but Turner, you want some dissent. I know you want some dissent, but
we don't have to.
I'm only going to make the fool of myself when I really believe it. So
the shortstop thing is a good point. So I mentioned on Twitter on the weekend that I find the shortstop values are so good, and then the utility values this year are so good, and you only have 3 spots where you can put shortstops or utility guys, and I'm sometimes filling all of those spots by like round 7 or 8, and then I can't take Dansby Swanson. I even think there's some guys who are solid values like Jeremy Pena, some guys, Xavier Edwards, depending on my build. So sometimes it's the only thing that I don't love about Turner is it just uses up one of those 3 spots. But whatever, I just want the players I want really to be in the draft. Like I'll figure it out after that.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure. So I don't think there's a whole lot else to say about Turner. So we're going to move on to your next guy. And this is someone I think there is something a lot to say about, and that's Bo Bichette, who has gotten a notable haircut this spring and is cutting down pitchers as well. Hey-oh, nice. But no, it's not really. But he's actually having a good spring.
I think he might be I'm not sure. He might be my most drafted player. He's certainly up there. I have him like several rounds ahead of ADP. I find in a 15-team league, he's at the top of my queue in round 6. And then it's just a matter of whether I take him in round 6 or wait till round 7. Once in a while, you can even get away with waiting to round 8. But yeah, he's at the top of my queue in a lot of drafts. I didn't take him in Tout Wars because it's an OBP league and someone else took him. I felt like a little too early for that format. And then I think I might have already had shortstops too with the Trea Turner thing. Anyways, but in regular leagues, yeah, I'm just of the opinion that in a contract year at age 27, a guy who's a career 290 hitter, like that last year was just a total washout to me, aberration. I don't think it was a sign of someone whose skill set's gone. It looks like he's going to hit leadoff for the Jays. I know they keep experimenting with lineups, but that's the one I see the most. So you get him hitting leadoff. I think he hits 20 to 25 home runs. I actually think he steals 10 bases. I think he'll just want to show that off in a contract year. I think he still can. Like 10, not 20, but 10.
Okay.
But if he hits 290 with 20-something steals, 90 runs scored, only 75 RBIs, it's a really good package. Getting that batting average in like round 6 or 7, I think is pretty valuable.
Yeah, it is. And now you took him early sick. Well, I don't know if it's the 10 stolen bases are the thing that I'm not sure is coming there. Yep. And
he did steal 5 last year in half a season and injured. So
could. And he, that the injury thing is big. Now you took him early though. I think you took him. I'm sharing the labor screen right now, the mixed labor draft we did a month ago, because you guys are visionaries. You're a visionary here, and I want to make sure that everybody realizes that you see the future. But even in the NFBC main events right now, Bo Bichette is going at pick 131 on average. That's 11 main event drafts right now. You took him 50 picks earlier at pick 81.
Yeah, now with main event, because the pitching getting pushed up, like I could probably argue that like 131 in the main event is more like 110 or so, or 115. Like it's probably a full round at least. I say it's probably a full round in compared, which is when I see where pitchers are going in the main event. So it's probably more like 115, which is about, I think, where he was going in other leagues. But you're right. Like in labor, I pushed it and took him in round 6. I find that it depends if I want a pitcher or not. Like in labor, I didn't want a pitcher because I'd already taken Cole Ragans and Corbin Burns. I find that like the rest, I don't know, I have him ahead of the rest of the hitters. I remember in labor debating him and Jordan Westburg. And most drafts, Jordan Westburg goes earlier, I find. Jordan Westburg was really good in his career so far for 4 months. I'm not saying I like Jordan Westburg, but he was really good for 4 months. Bo Bichette was really good for years, and then had 1 year last year where he's just injured and everything went. He also did get off to a really poor start last year, but
So the difference is like, Bichette is more proven as a hitter. I will grant you that. But I don't think Bichette is proven as a stolen base guy anymore. I think that the stolen bases have been on the decline for a while.
Like I said, that's why I'm only expecting 10. He did have the 1 year with 5.
The full season in 2023.
But last year, half season 5. And then the year before the 5, he had 13. I don't know. I just feel like I think 10, if he's a leadoff hitter too, is just, and again, a contract year. I just don't see him in a contract year just not stealing any bases. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the Jays won't let him steal. Maybe they want him to stay healthy.
Yeah. And, The thing that always cued me in on Bichette was, for the longest time, I mean, the sprint speed decline on him is real, and it's been that
Yep.
way for a
Yep.
while. It's not just last year.
Yep.
No, it's been a thing there where for a while, and especially compared to position, especially, that's where he has been a guy who's had declining sprint speed stats. So that's the pushback I get. I think he's fine, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's just actually a pure value. I think you got him. I think you take him a little early.
Yeah, I probably, labor, I definitely, this is the thing also, is just strategically, should I be taking him later against ADP just because I can? In labor, I felt like leaving him till late 7th, like I wasn't sure. And that was an early draft, so I maybe kind of wanted to flag plan a bit. Like I'd rather get him in round 7. Although I really find that the guys I take in round 6 and 7, I just don't really find a big difference between them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think in labor, like I took him instead of a closer, and then I took Jeff Hoffman in round 7, who like I might have taken anyways. I might have just flipped the order.
And that is one where you were ahead of the curve on. And that one we have seen him rise. I'm going to go ahead and throw that Hoffman out there now. Yeah. Now that you mention it, and we can come back to the rest of your hitters there. But I think it's noteworthy that Jeff Hoffman is someone, as the closer inflation has started to kick in, Hoffman's one of those guys that's starting to go earlier. You and Frank Amarante on Twitter, who's been tweeting about him a lot, have kind of persuaded me to go after him in AL Towers, where I got him for $18 in an AL only week over the weekend. I mean, I also looked at his stats. I mean, it's all about the medicals with Hoffman. I believe in the skills. I just don't know if we can trust the health. But every other closer was going for $20. Hoffman stopped at 18. So I went and got him. I'm happy with that. We'll see if it works out. He has never been a capital C closer before either.
Nope. If there's something to hold you back, I guess that would be it. I just see the fact that the Braves, like he got I think 3 years, $36 million from the Jays. Like the fact that the Braves and the Orioles weren't willing, after looking at his medicals, to beat 3 years, $36 million for a reliever. Like I know they were talking about him maybe as a starter, but like that's a good contract for a reliever. 3 years, $36 million. Like teams aren't going to throw around like a 4-year contract on a reliever, possible starter, or more than $12 million a year. So he got a good contract. It's not like the Jays gave him, it's not like no one wanted him and the Jays gave him 1 year, $10 million or something like that. He got a good contract. He's for sure the Jays closer. The Jays quietly, like I've been burned enough. I don't really want to promote them too much, but if you look at, say, the PECOTA standings, they have the Jays with 85 wins and second in the AL East. And, there's no media bias in PECOTA rankings for standings, for example. They have them ahead of the Yankees now after all the Yankees injuries, ahead of Boston, ahead of Tampa. So bottom line is he's playing for a team that's expected to be decent, at least decent. Even if they don't make this, at least maybe they're 81 wins or something. He can get plenty of saves. I don't think there's really save competition. Yimi Garcia will be the setup man. Chad Green, they're not going to push in on him for closer. I like him more than Yohan Duran. I just think that the Twins share saves more than the Blue Jays will. I really like Ryan Walker. I just find I haven't been ending up with them. I think I like Hoffman more than Felix Bautista. Like there's been some velocity concerns about him in spring training. There's workload concerns. I like Bautista, but I feel like Hoffman's safer source of just, being the closer. Andres Munoz, I think I like Hoffman maybe a little better. I like them about the same. Seattle's never really gone heavy. We've talked about that, but we think maybe they will this year go heavy with one closer since he's been around. So once Helsley and some of the other top guys are off the board, I kind of like Hoffman as much as anyone left.
So I'm pushing Bautista up into that first tier because that's kind of where he's going now. So there's now like a tier of 8 closers. After that tier, I'd rank Munoz, Walker, then Hoffman over Duran. I'm with you on that one there.
I would take Walker over some of the guys that you have, like Bautista. I take Walker and Hoffman over Bautista.
I can see it. I'm just saying if I'm gonna take Hoffman, I'm gonna let although where I'm going to be taking is going to be interesting. I'm in a staff keeper league tomorrow night, so that doesn't really apply. But the main event on Saturday, I'm drafting 15th, and we'll talk more about that. But I'm going to have to decide whether to catch up on a closer run or start one, basically.
There you go.
Exactly. That's going to be the tricky part there for me. So absolutely. But I'm with you. I like Hoffman.
Another spoiler. I'm going to tell you later exactly what I would do from 15th. because I feel like I can just say that because it's not what you're going to do. But I'll tell you everyone later what I would do from 15 in the main event.
What? Okay, I'm very much looking.
I'll leave it. I'll leave everyone hanging for a little while.
Done.
What I would do from pick 15 in the main event, and this is just for the main event, not necessarily another. Again, I haven't had a pick later than 9 or 10 in any draft this year, so I haven't actually done this. But this is what I would do. I thought about it a bit once you told me you were 15th. Anyways, we'll go do that later.
Back to hitters. Next one you get is Alec Bohm. Tell me about Alec Bohm, because I'm not on him. I don't have Alec Bohm.
Nobody is.
Anywhere.
That's why I keep drafting him. I'm not on him either. But I feel like I'm not on him either.
I was waiting for the unified Alec Bohm theory.
No, I'm not.
Zinkie louder than a Bohm. But
if you had said to me at the start of the draft season that I was going to have a lot of shares of him, I would be like, why? Like, I don't have him ranked. I don't have him projected that high. I don't think. But here's what I'll say about him. Like I have him in I have him with 18 homers. That's a little more than last year. It's kind of like his average from the past 2 years. So sure. I have him with 4 steals, whatever. That's not a big deal. He does always hit for average. Like his career 277. It's been a little better than that the last couple of years overall. No, not really. Actually, he's about a 270. He's about a 280 hitter. So I have him right around there. He has driven in the last 2 years a lot of runs. He does hit a nice spot in the lineup behind a couple of real high on base guys. So that really helps him. I think what happens is around round 10, I end up with this really flat group of hitters, just a bunch of hitters that I have within like a couple decimal points on their SGPs. Okay. And then it's a matter of just which one do you take? Because again, they're all ranked about the same. I think the reasons I take Bohm, there's 2 reasons. One is maybe grabbing a little more batting average before we head deeper into the draft. And then the other reason is that there aren't a ton of third basemen I love. So by that point in the draft, I usually have a lot of middle infielders, maybe even the utility spot gone. I know I can play around with outfielders between rounds 10 and 20 and find some that I like, but third base, I don't find super deep. So when I have a bunch of guys around the same SGP, I'm often just like, well, I think I'll just figure out, I'll take care of third base right now and get him. So it's more that than me really loving him.
Fair enough. A couple of things with Bohm. Batting order matters a lot.
Yep.
He really needs to keep hitting in the middle of that Phillies lineup. They move him down a couple of spots. All of a sudden, one of the big keys, him being in the lineup present, getting 600 plate appearances with runners on base, getting those 90 plus RBI, that changes quite a bit because he's kind of a ground ball hitter. He generates hard contact, but as we've learned, hard contact often shows up in ground balls. So it's not like, okay, well, he just elevates that and he'll hit more homers. Well, not necessarily. So I'm kind of watching that one a little bit, but he does make lots of contact, 84.5% contact rate last year. I do think that's probably something that likely continues, but I'm a little worried about the lack of power because without that batting order spot, the counting stats aren't going to be as good.
So Roster Resource has him batting 3rd. And at first I was like 3rd, but it actually makes some sense because now that the Phillies are talking about hitting Trea Turner leadoff instead of Schwarber and put Schwarber cleanup, he breaks up the lefties. So you go Turner righty, Harper lefty, Bohm righty, Schwarber lefty, Castellanos righty, Kepler lefty, Real Muto righty. They go perfectly back and forth all the way down the lineup. And then I thought, maybe they've got better hitters or whatever. And if you look at projected OPS, he's projected OPS as 4th best on the team. So again, a reason maybe to have him in the. So you got a guy who makes a lot of contact, 4th best OPS on the team, breaks up the lefties. It actually makes some sense to have him hitting 4th. Castellanos hitting 3rd. Nick Castellanos hitting 3rd, maybe, but he's a little more powerful, but he's also going to get out more often. So if he hits 3rd on the Phillies, I think that in between Harper and Schwarber, I feel like I'll be really happy that I have a lot of shares.
Yep. 3 straight years of 600 plate appearances. Just be careful. He's got a foot issue. He's supposed to return to the lineup on Wednesday, but obviously, he's a Nick Markakis type. He's a compiler, and I don't want to use that as a pejorative, but it kind of is. Though too. We've seen his steamer 600. It is his line. There is no difference. It's the same thing. Just something to be as a heads up on that. All right. Brandon Nimmo. You have found Nimmo on your line on your rosters frequently, and yeah, I have no shame in using that there. But I like Nimmo as a player. I'm a little worried about durability with Brandon Nimmo. He came in with plantar fasciitis. He's had an injection in his knee this spring. I like some of his skills. I am a little worried about his durability.
I'm getting worried a bit too. The only thing that's coming to my benefit is in my last drafts, so is the rest of the market. So I find he's dropping a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he's in that flat tier for me too, that has Alec Bohm. It also has Castellanos, who I have some shares of, not enough to put him in this one, but this conversation. But anyways, Nimmo's in that group for me. So in our early drafts, like our labor draft, my Tout Wars draft, I was getting a lot of shares of him. I just really like him as a player. I think he's an excellent player. He gets on base a lot. And then he's got 20 homer power. He's hit 23 last year, 24 the year before. Last year, he stole 15 bases. I'm not counting on that again, but maybe 7, something like that. The thing I really like about him, though, is that Mets lineup is supposed to be, if you look at some things like Bichette standings, it's supposed to be one of the highest scoring lineups in baseball. And Nimmo is supposed to hit cleanup against righties. Yep. So just another guy with a really good lineup spot. But like I said, I liked him more around like round 11 or so, maybe 12. But now, like, his main event ADP is 220. So he's sinking. So I dropped him a bit. I was like, okay, I got enough shares. I don't need more Nimmo shares. But then he's sitting around in my drafts. So then I'm hitting like round 14 or something. And I'm like, well, whatever. I'll take him now. Like, I'm getting a discount now for the injury concern. So I still like the player.
How much of a discount do you need?
Only a couple rounds. Like, I think he was playing in the outfield today. Like he's supposed to be ready for opening day. Like, a couple rounds, I feel like is very fair.
Okay. Star Platinum, if you're watching the stream, I highlighted his comment here. Has a bad knee from favoring his foot from plantar fasciitis. Yeah. Yes. And the kinetic chain thing is concerning.
Yeah, it is.
And plantar fasciitis is slow to go away, if ever.
It didn't go away in the offseason. So it is a concern for me for sure. Like, when I took him in labor, that wasn't a story yet because we were just getting rolling really with spring training. Mm-hmm. And then it became more of a story. And like I said, then I downgraded him, but so did everyone else.
Yep. So something to watch for there.
Yeah.
Mets are low key having an spring health wise there.
Yeah.
Not as bad as the Yankees,
but
the
Yankees. Yeah.
Yeah. Still pretty bad.
Yeah.
All right. We got 2 more hitters. Jake McCarthy. I like this one. Jake McCarthy is a hitter that is going roughly around pick 223 in the main event. Great second half last year. Not a ton of power, but seemingly had these games where he'd get 2 hits, 3 hits, 2 hits, 3 hits. And of course, you're getting a lot of stolen bases with Jake McCarthy.
Yeah, I think he's someone who could steal 30 bases. Not only has he stolen bases well in the majors, but StatCast says he's one of the fastest runners in baseball. So it's not just a base stealing skill. Like, he's legitimately really fast. Career 270 hitter, who's kind of just reaching his prime. Like, he's 27. So, like I say, I feel like he's just getting into his prime. Already a career 270 hitter. I think I only have him projected for about 8 homers. It is a little bit of a feel thing. Like, do you need steals at that point in the draft? Sometimes, though, I find I just have him valued better than the other players. In the projected Diamondbacks lineup, he's actually not at the bottom either. Like, he's not at the top, and he's not like totally in the middle. What do they have him 5th? So I don't know if he'll hit 5th or not. Again, he breaks up a couple righties in Gurriel and Suarez, but if he could hit 5th or 6th, that's not a bad spot for counting stats. I do find that Alec Thomas is still hanging around and is a center fielder and is a good outfielder. I just think McCarthy's I just think he's a better hitter than Thomas. That's my one concern on McCarthy. I have a lot of shares. I worry about Alec Thomas pushing in on his role. Mm-hmm. I also think that this is almost like a starting pitcher thing. Like, there's just enough pieces there that, at any point in the season, is Corbin Carroll healthy? Is Gurriel healthy? Is Pavin Smith healthy? Like, is Thomas healthy? Like, there's just a lot of guys there. I feel like there'll be long stretches this season where there's no competition for playing time, or he'll just prove himself. I don't know. I think McCarthy's a pretty good baseball player. Like, should be an everyday guy for them. So
I like McCarthy. But there's some warning signs. He has one of the lowest average exit velocities in baseball, 84.5 miles per hour. Hard hit rate's only 19.9%. Barrel rate's 2.0%.
Yep.
So he's always going to be subject to BABIP variance, and he's going to be subject, he's got to put the ball in play. He can't strike out. Now, the good news is he's not striking out. 15.8% strikeout rate, a pretty big drop from the year before at 19.9. But there's a reason why he didn't graduate to being an everyday player until second half of last year.
Yep.
It's the sprint speed is something we dream on. It's elite. And to his credit, I mean, he's not elevating the ball. You're not going to get a ton of homers out of Jake McCarthy. Not with that rate. But he did get like 8 last year. I think asking anything more than 9 or 10 of them in any given season is probably too much, which means you're also not getting that many RBI. Just something to watch out for there when you're rostering him. That's why he comes at a discounted rate. But I think he's one of those, okay, you can find steals later in the draft sort of guys.
Yeah. And his profile to me resembles Nico Horner. He's also one of the softest hitters in baseball, but speedy, and always hits for average. Steven Kwan, same thing, like really low average exit velocities, still is always like a 290 hitter. Jose Altuve doesn't have high exit velocities, and he still always hits for average. But Kwan and Nico Horner are a couple of the guys that, maybe Jacob Young actually too, but that McCarthy kind of reminds me of as far as like speedy guys who don't hit the ball hard, but as long as they keep it down and they run fast, they can hit for average.
Yep. One more thing, Dave Funnell jumps in. You should be following him on Twitter. Good injury analysis as well. He talks about it's not just the plantar fasciitis; it's also he's previously had an ACL reconstruction. So, good note there on that as well. McCarthy. All of a sudden, just talking about McCarthy right now has me less enthused than I did 12 seconds ago. I like the good things that he does, but the lack of exit velocity does scare me a little bit more. So anyways, I still think it's a good guy to get for late steals, but I think you need to realize you better have some power locked up if you're going to be drafting him. So, but again, the cost is right. You're not spending a top 10 round pick on the guy. You're spending like round 15 and a 15 teamer. So I think that's important. We're not going back to the Malik Smith days and the insanity that happened with some of these high speed guys then. All right. One last hitter that you're rostering, Fred Zinkie, and that is Nolan Schanuel, first baseman for the Angels, an OBP god, but what else does he do?
Yeah. He's, so he might be my most rostered hitter just because he's so cheap that it's easy for me to draft him around round 22, 23. He's often like my last hitter. Maybe not utility, maybe corner infield or first base. I find I often am leaving those spots till the end. My thoughts on Schanuel, first round pick in 2023. Not very many first round picks in 2023 have even got to the majors yet. He's already got 739 major league plate appearances. And I find the fantasy community's really judged him hard on those plate appearances because they were in the majors. But if he just did this in the minors, we would I think there'd just be a lot more hype around him, like first round pick, and he's going to be the Angels' everyday first baseman. I think with Schanuel, he's already shown he can steal the odd base. Stole 10 bases last year. So, and I don't see why he's just turned 23. I don't see why at 23 he'd just be like, oh, I'm going to stop stealing bases. He could probably steal 10 more this year. And he's someone who can already get on base. He's already that on base machine. 354 is his career. Second half of last year was 373. That's an elite on base rate for a 22-year-old to have last year to have a 373 on base. So the only thing missing with Schanuel is the power. He doesn't hit the ball really hard yet.
No.
And he doesn't have a lot of power. There are a ton of players who, when they were 21 and 22 years old, didn't have a lot of power because that's just that age where you're really filling out, getting stronger, driving the ball better. Just these other guys did that in the minors. When I go back and look at minor league stats for guys, sometimes around the age 21, 22, they're not yet hitting for a lot Power. Schanuel did this in the majors. So
that's right.
So we've now labeled him as not a power hitter. And I'm not saying he's gonna be a 30 homer guy. But
you're such a labeler. So late.
Right. So I found we've labeled him as oh, he's just a soft hitter. He's not a power hitter. He's going to be just an on base guy. And we'll see if that happens. But I'm willing to take my chances on, that maybe the 250 average last year becomes 260, 265. And he gets 10 steals again. And he hit 13 homers last year. Could he hit 17 this year? Again, he's going from age 22 to 23. It's just so young. He plays every day. And you can get him so late. And maybe he's someone, because he's so young, maybe the power takes off and he hits 20 homers, which still isn't it. If he went from 13 to 20, from age 22 to 23, it wouldn't even be shocking. So I just feel there's an interesting mix of floor with the steals and the on base ability, and then some upside just because he's so young, but also has experience. Like, he's someone we already know won't be overwhelmed by major league pitching. Other guys who are 23 who come up for the first time, there's that concern. Like, are they just going to strike out a ton and be terrible? Like, we already know that's not going to happen with him.
To your point, he was a first round pick in 2023. He played 25 minor league games, period. 25.
Yep. This is what the Angels do. They rush guys to the majors.
And that's why Christian Moore will see a lot of him this year, I think, although I don't think he's ready. But in his last season at Florida Atlantic, Schanuel had an 868 slugging percentage, hit 19 home runs, 16 the year before that in 58 games. So, he showed the power, but also with just a ridiculously high average. His last year at Florida Atlantic is comical. 447, 615, 868 on Nolan Schanuel. So, he was always an OBP god even then too. And he had 14 stolen bases in that last year as well. So Schanuel, I see the evidence for it. I mean, the thing that, and our latest note on Schanuel too, is he spent this offseason aimed on improving his bat speed. So they acknowledge this is something that needs to happen. And I was listening to the live stream with Scott Jensen and Toby over the weekend doing the Mike the Mouth draft. And Toby made a good point about that. He doesn't spend a lot of time looking at spring training stats unless it's about exit velocity, things like that. Not that Schanuel's doing anything noteworthy, but I sometimes see like so-and-so is crushing it, blah, blah, blah. They're, usually it doesn't the skill set doesn't change based on some spring training at bats. Schanuel, I'm glad that they acknowledge that he needs to work on that, but a 112 ISO for a first baseman's paltry.
Yeah.
And so he has to be able to get those stolen bases for him to be worth it there.
Yeah. I mean, the downside of Schanuel could be he sells out for power this year and it doesn't work and he's worse. And he hits,
and then he doesn't do any of the goodness either.
Right. But hopefully I'm going to be a little more optimistic again for a guy who, like you said, has great college numbers, first round pick, survived the on the job training. I just think too, like round 22 or 23, like even if he just kind of does what he did last year, he's not a terrible pick at that point.
Yeah. Question from Adam Griffin on this one here. This is a good question. Who would you rather have at corner infield? Schanuel, Willie Castro, or Ryan Mountcastle? It's an OBP league, so obviously Schanuel's got a lot more value there.
Oh, okay.
I'd like Mountcastle, but the OBP the fact that it's an OBP league gives me pause at least.
Yeah, I might take Willie Castro actually now that Royce Lewis is out. I think I might take Willie Castro. I actually have him ranked. It's an OBP league, but it's still a roto league. So Castro didn't steal as many bases last year. Like he went from 33 to 14, which is just really weird.
Yeah, with more playing time. Yeah,
totally. It was really weird. So I love Schanuel, but I would take the other guys both ahead of him. I'm not the Mountcastle guy at all, and he's not an OBP guy at all. So my pick would actually be Willie Castro because I feel like Castro, he actually does have a bit of pop. Like I feel like Castro, like a little bit last year. So, and then the stolen base potential is higher than Schanuel. If I'm just comparing the two, like Castro hit a dozen homers last year. He only stole 14 bases, but we know Castro could turn around and steal 25 this year.
Yeah, and they're talking about Castro playing second, but that was also before the Royce Lewis injury.
Right, so now he's probably third.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe and he's playing well, he goes back to second eventually.
And here's the thing: he's this year's multi-position monster. You get you get four positions with them: second, third, short, and outfield, which means you also get middle and corner too. Amazing. So that's huge.
Yep,
that's huge.
Sure.
And if you play individual outfield positions for some reason, he gets left and center. So yeah. He's everywhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, on that alone, if you're trying to debate him versus the other guys and you can't decide, like all those positions that's your deciding factor.
Yeah. Yeah. But compare his hard hit rate versus say like Schanuel's, and he hits the ball harder. Yeah. So that is something there, but hey, and we'll see how long Royce Lewis is out. That's on our list of things to talk about a little bit later on there. Thing that's also on my list to talk about is that our friends at FanTrax are sponsoring this podcast. It's the most customizable fantasy platform in the industry, offering the greatest fantasy experience for your dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Coming from another service, FanTrax makes it easy. FanTrax can import any of your current leagues and customize if needed. FanTrax offers the most in-depth player pool in the industry, including minor league players. I just finished a Stratomatic league where we were just drafting crazy deep. So I can attest to that. Do you need a customizable commissioner service for your fantasy league? FanTrax offers more customization than any other platform. Waivers, categories, scoring system, schedule. FanTrax offers custom solutions for all that and more, and it's all free. Sign up for free today and be entered to win an official MLB signed jersey from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It's a Blue Jays jersey still, by the way. Sign up to go. Yeah, simply to go to fantrax.com/rotowire and sign up today. That's fantrax.com/rotowire. FanTrax, the home of fantasy sports. All right, we're going to pivot over to the pitchers that you are most often drafting here. But before we get individual names, did you have some of these that were, okay, this is a target, or are these ones that you just landed on more often than not?
I'd say the later guys were probably targets. Well, just once my rankings were done to start spilling the beans, like I have Nestor Cortes ranked way higher than his ADP.
Okay.
So I just knew I would end up with him a lot. Like I have him like a tier, like maybe 3 or 4 rounds ahead of his ADP. Clarke Schmidt is another guy on there. He's someone I just got really into during spring training. Then the shoulder thing popped up.
Yeah,
yesterday.
just this past couple of days. Yeah.
I know, and I already
gross.
had a bunch of shares, and I'm doing one more draft. So then I was actually just about to take him, and then I was like, I saw the shoulder thing, and I was like, oh, forget it. I already have enough shares. I'm not taking him, so I didn't take him, and then I didn't take him again the next round, and then he's still hanging around in the draft, and then the news came out today that he's ready to make his first start on schedule, and he's throwing, and he said I wouldn't have been throwing today if I wasn't sure I was fine. So then I took him 2 rounds later than I was going to take him.
All right. Well, there you go. You got a discount.
I got another share.
Bam.
So absorbing some risk.
Quadruple down on a guy. That's what I always say.
With Schmidt, I just think there's a lot of upside now that he's like cemented into the Yankees rotation. He showed the workhorse thing 2 years ago. And then last year, he wasn't a workhorse. He only pitched half the season, but he was way better. So last year he showed big improvements, his skills. The year before he showed he can throw through 159 innings that year. So like he showed the ability to compile a lot of innings. I'm hoping maybe we can put those two things together and we get 165 innings, maybe 170 strikeouts, decent ratios, good team. Yeah, I really like Clarke Schmidt. So
all right.
And then Nestor Cortes is my other guy where I don't know. I feel like people are kind of cool on Cortes. So where he goes in drafts, like his career ERA is 3.80 and his WHIP's 1.16, and he's a strikeout per inning guy. So in his career, like just round it off. So if he just did that this year, I find I'd get him around round 17 or so. So round 17, a strikeout per inning, 3.80 ERA, 1.16 WHIP. I think that's good. And then I think there's a chance Milwaukee does a great job with pitchers. Cortez's numbers are a little bit tainted by injury-plagued 2023 season when he really struggled, and some struggles at the very beginning of his career before he really found his footing. I think there's a chance that with Milwaukee he does better than that, and I think he gets maybe like a 3.50 ERA, maybe a WHIP about 1.13, 1.14. I don't know. I think he could be a good value pick. Not an exciting, just like a grind out. That Larry Schechter, like people talk about 3 rounds of profit kind of thing.
Yep.
I got a guy in round 17 who played like he belonged in round 14.
That's huge. If you can do that 4 or 5 times, that's massive. It's like, it's definitely, it's so funny that you say that because Scott and Toby were talking on Saturday, like rounds 11 to 20 are often where, drafts are won. Yeah. It's getting those guys to behave like 8th rounders or 6th rounders or whatever. That's massive. I think, I'm seeing, you talked about Schmidt and Adam is in a OC. He says in the forum here that he's still at 246. He's still available. I took Schmidt and then I was debating between Dustin May and Schmidt. I went Schmidt hoping I'd get Dustin May. And of course, May went like 3 picks later. So I have super regret because of what happened there, because of what happened with Schmidt's shoulder. But still, I was like, maybe I could have done the other way around.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where I took him in my draft just to kind of compare it to round 246. It was even later than that. He hung around. I think you can wait. I think, I don't know. The shoulder news today was better. So maybe you can't wait, but I got him. Like I said, I'm in this draft right now. Round 19, pick 2. So
That's steep.
Right, but that was, like I said, just coming off of the injury. So let's
Right.
see here. So that's pick 272.
Well, just to
So
give you another
a
perspective,
little bit later, but now that the news is a little better, 246 to me feels appropriate again.
So just to give you a little bit of perspective there, the main event, the ADP is out. We've had 11 main events so far.
Yeah.
Clarke Schmidt goes ahead of Dustin May, so I feel less bad about this all of a sudden. But Schmidt's range is huge. His average pick is 236. He's the 235th player. Average pick is 233. I'm sorry, I misspoke a little bit there. But his range, as early as 193, as late as 320. He's definitely got the white, and I'm sure that's because the 320 is the reason, I'm sure. But keep in mind, too, he was fighting for a rotation spot early in spring training, but the main events had started after like the Cole news basically came out. But with Cole out, with Heel out, Schmidt's got a job if he can get to the opening poll. It's there for him. Him and Stroman both, probably. Will Warren, too, for that matter.
That's right. So Schmidt's someone where his ADP was probably more like 215, something like that, and then plummeted this past weekend when the shoulder news came out, right? Well, like he had some lower drafts. So I'm just looking up. So it was 204 if I take the first 4 main events before this past weekend when the news came out. So it was more like low 200. So again, 246, like you were talking about in the question. I feel like now that we've got better news on the shoulder, I think that's fair value.
I do too.
I think today, where I got him really late in a draft, like I said, just because that shoulder news was sorting itself out, I think that's unusual value. I wouldn't expect that going forward.
All right. So we've kind of vetted Schmidt and Nestor Cortes. Let's talk about Cole Ragans up at the top. By the way, I'm sharing the labor draft grid with everybody here because you got all these pitchers in labor. It's hilarious. Mm-hmm. This is what you do. But Cole Ragans is often your guy in the 3rd round.
He is. I have him ranked 6th among pitchers. So I have Skeen, Skubal, Wheeler, Crochet. I have no shares of Crochet. I would have been shocked if you told me that before draft season started. I thought I would have Crochet for sure because I have him tied for 4th with Logan Gilbert. But everybody else likes Crochet too. He's a second. I didn't see it coming. I guess I should have, because there's so much upside with him that he'd become a 2nd round pick. But anyways, then I have Ragans after that. Just comparing him, like I have him with a lot more strikeouts than Corbin Burns, which puts him ahead of Corbin Burns. I have him with better ratios than Dylan Cease, who also has a lot of strikeouts. That puts him ahead of Dylan Cease. And then Chris Sale, I have him with a lot more innings than Chris Sale, just because I worry the age, the injury history. I have Chris Sale around Ragans in my rankings, and you could easily make a case for Sale, but I like Ragans. He's been outstanding since he started with the Royals. That's about a season and a half now. And the strikeout rate's great. So he's someone who you could legitimately project to lead the majors in strikeouts. Like I have him in the top 5. Like he's a real chance to lead the majors in strikeouts. So far with the Royals, he's been durable, and he's just been like super effective. So I kind of have the opinion with Cole Ragans that if he did what he's done with the Royals in a bigger market, everyone would have him maybe where I have him, or maybe even a little higher. Like, I just feel like if he did this, like I said, like not forget even the Yankees or Boston, but if he just did this maybe on a little better, I know the Royals were a bit of a story last year, but they're still not. Like if he maybe even did this on Houston or something like that, I feel like we'd have more buzz around him.
Yep. I saw in the comments that people wanted to see the grid a little bit more, so I threw it back in there, so you guys can check it out there. But I also give you the URL for those of you streaming with us here. You can see this is a draft. Keep in mind, just the caveat here. I'm posting this because Fred and I are both in this draft together, and he's definitely putting his money where his mouth is there. I also posted the link in the forum there as well for those people that are streaming along with us there. You can see that, you can see the link from that draft grid there. And later on, I'll be doing the same when we talk a little Tout Wars. But I have Snell ahead of Ragans, in part because of the team context. Although that rubs both ways. Snell might make fewer starts just because the Dodgers are deeper. But at the same time, I think the quality is at least the same, and I think the team context is better.
I just have Ragans, compared to Snell. I have Ragans with so many more innings, and therefore more strikeouts. Like I have Snell with a better strikeout rate, but Cole Ragans has a really good strikeout rate himself. So I just have so many more innings. And then because Snell's not like a super whip guy, like I find he doesn't make up any ground there. How about this? Actually, I've been waiting to tell you this, so I'll tell you this live on air. I thought of you as soon as I made the pick.
Foreigner here, the Foreigner podcast version.
In my most recent draft, I got Blake Snell at pick 59. I don't know what happened, how he fell so far, and it's not like all the pitchers were falling. Like other pitchers, like I think Yamamoto and Framber Valdez, like they went ahead of him, and he fell all the way to pick 59. And I'm not the Snell guy this year. I'm not against him, but I'm not the Snell guy this year. But I was like, pick 59. How do you say no? So I thought of you because I was like, oh, you like him in round 3. So to get him right at the very end of round 4.
Well, I've been thrilled to get him in round 4 in a couple of drafts, but that's not happening in the main event, by the way. It's an overall contest and the people who play the NFBC value starting pitching tend to value it a little bit more, but suffice to say the Crochet Snell 3-4 combo is not happening. The latest that Garrett Crochet has gone in 11 NFBC main event drafts is pick 26. So it just gives you to me, getting him at 37 is just a total anomaly that will never happen again. Snell, on the other hand, no, that's still, I wouldn't get him at, it's got, his range is 29 to 47 in the main event. So that's also not happening. Interesting.
Snell's pretty much a third rounder in every main event.
And this, this is after the Kirby news, after the Cole news. So these guys are getting pushed up. Jacob deGrom is getting pushed up. His range is 31 to 50. What about, and this was asked in the forum, in the live stream, so I'll go ahead and throw up the question now here as well. Jared asks about how far does Spencer Strider move up in ADP after today's encouraging start? I have thoughts on this, but I want to hear yours first.
Encouraging to say the least, and
and
it's like not hard to dream on Spencer Strider,
right?
Right. So first round pick last year. So his ADP in the main event's 91. I think he's going to go in some upcoming ones. He has a 68. I think his ADP going forward in the main event is going to be, I say it goes up a lot. I say it's 60. 65, something like that.
Yeah. And I think I think there will be the min pick. I think there's about 40 more main events still left. Okay. I would be willing to set the line at number of leagues where he goes with a 30 or higher pick. I'd set that at over 1.5 leagues. Basically, I think at least 2 leagues, he will go in the second round. Because like you said, it's not hard to dream on the upside. You're seeing what he can do today. Someone's going to get excited about that there. I think someone at that 2-3 turn is just going to say, all right, I've got Ohtani and Strider. Let's go. I think that's going to happen. Or maybe it's pick 31. We'll include 31 for the sake of argument there. I would set the line at least 1.5 leagues.
So Dylan Cease in the main goes at 51. So that's like the early middle of round 4. And then there's a massive starter gap after him all the way to pick 62. So the beginning of round 5. 60 Framber Valdez, 62 Yamamoto, 64 Michael King. So those guys all go right at the start. That's right, isn't it? Yes, that's the start around 5. So I'm going to say that maybe Strider starts to go on average with that group, or right. So maybe he doesn't catch Dylan Cease, and get high. Maybe in some leagues, I'm thinking of him as maybe like late round 4. That's how I'm kind of feeling, mid to late round 4. But maybe some people, like you say, on the 3-4 turn are like, well, he's not coming back to me. So here we go.
The 2-3 turn I meant. Yeah. I think there will be some push up here and there. Maybe I'm overstating it. I'm not saying I'm going to do it.
It only takes one.
Yeah. All it takes is one. I mean, there's no shortage of believers in Strider. He helped people win leagues in 22 and 23. So yeah, I can see it there. Last pitcher for you that you are frequently rostering is the Cardinals' Quinn Mathews. That's a guy added in TGFBI today in round 29. I know he's already been sent down by the Cardinals, but I think he's going to be up pretty soon, and I think you do too.
Yeah, I'm hoping to hold him for a month, and then we'll see if he can get up or not. I just think Steven Matz probably only lasts a month. And then just randomly, like they've got 36-year-old Miles Michaelis. I know he's been durable, but 36, 35-year-old Sonny Gray. So we'll see. I just feel like maybe he can get up in a month. And then the price on Quinn Mathews is so late that if I get a rash of injuries, or if I just like some guys off waivers, if I do have to cut him in a couple weeks, then whatever. Then I cut my 28th round pick, right? So that's just, he's so late. So I have recently, kind of played with a little bit like earlier prospects. I did take a Roman Anthony recently. I did take a Kristian Campbell recently. But Quinn Mathews is just, like I said, like so cheap. There's no buzz around him. I think he's an excellent pitcher. I'm going to want him on my teams when he comes up. I'm hoping on at least some of these teams I can hold him until he gets up. But if I do have a rash of injuries and have to cut him, like I can't cut Roman Anthony now. Like I took him in like round 21 or something. I feel really 22.
That's the problem with taking one of those type of prospects.
Yeah, I kind of want to hold him now. I'd have to be really desperate. I'd do it if I had to, but I don't want to.
Michael McGreevy or Quinn Mathews? Who do you prefer?
Quinn Mathews. I just think Quinn Mathews is really good. I just think once he's up, I even think McGreevy might get a chance first because maybe Mathews is kind of on his own.
Yeah,
that's right. But not necessarily. Like I think just Mathews wasn't going to open the season on the team. I think McGreevy could maybe be like in and out, but maybe Mathews is at some point in and then just in the whole time. So yeah I don't know. Like I said, the pick is so late. If you have to cut him, it's the same with, we were talking about Andrew Painter before we started. Like you have to cut Andrew Painter. If you can get Bubba Chandler that late too, same thing. I find he goes a little earlier, which I get, but I don't really, I want to be careful about spending like a pick where I have to hold the rookie. But if I don't have to hold him like around 27, 28, then sure, I'll try Quinn Mathews. It's the same as drafting like some of these other guys, Zach Leiter, or just grabbing like a Blake Trinan if you don't really need him. Like I'll try Quinn Mathews to see if I can get away with holding.
Well, and here's the thing is you cut Quinn Mathews because he's a 29th round pick. You still might be able to fab him when there's buzz that he's going to get the call, because some people will forget that he was drafted and dropped, so thus eligible in certain formats there. Others are just like, okay, I can always get him back. But if you cut Roman Anthony, there's going to be a bidding war for him, and someone's going to just swoop in the following week and pick him up even before he's ready to be picked up because they happen to have the roster spot that you don't have. Plus, it's just the opportunity cost. You're giving up a much better player around pick 300 in a 15-teamer, or even worse around pick 250 in a 12-teamer. It's harder to invest that earlier pick there. So I get that there. All right. Before we start previewing the main event and reviewing Tout Wars, quick note from our friends over at the NFBC. The NFBC RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Online Championship is live. Play fantasy baseball against your favorite RotoWire experts on the NFBC this baseball season. I'm there. James Anderson, Clay Link, Scott Genstad, and more are competing in the RotoWire NFBC Online Championship for a shot at the $150,000 grand prize. Nick Whalen did his last week. I know Eric Halterman has done one as well. Of course, we're RotoWire, so we're going to participate in the RotoWire Online Championship. Sign up for a draft today at rotowire.com/high stakes. That's rotowire.com/high stakes. If you're in a league with us and you beat us, you also get a RotoWire subscription as well. And if you're already a subscriber, an extension on that subscription. So hopefully you want to jump in and do that there. All right, Fred. I got my draft slot today in the main event on Saturday. I am drafting 15th. I got my league slot yesterday. It is not pretty.
I sent you to rub salt in the wound unintentionally. I sent you a message saying, hey, you're picking 7th. Because I guess you were 7th to pick your slot. They
did a live drawing yesterday on YouTube. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but Jenny Butler, who I'm in the league with, sent it to me and goes, we've got a really bad draft.
It was just announcing who's in your league.
League of Death. Yeah. And it was Greg and Mike the Mouth were doing a drawing, taking names out of the bowl. I'm not sure what their method was, but not only do I have like 2 ridiculous, amazing all-time studs in my league, but other great players as well. But I've got Casey Cha and Phil Dussault. I'm in their league. Notice I didn't say it's my league. It's their league. I'm participating in it. But, just to mention those 2 is not doing justice some of the other great players in that league. It is ridiculous, Fred. But then again, I don't want to make too much out of this because it's a main event live draft. They're all supposed to be ridiculous and stupid. There are so many great players. There's not a soft league. There might be harder leagues, but there's not a soft league. Joe McHugh, I played in with last year. Griffin Banger has been awesome. Jenny Butler is an awesome player. Doug Gruber is an awesome player. And anybody I don't mention, it's not meant as a slight. It's just too many to mention. It is a really, really tough league. And I even got people tweeting at me saying, "Oh man, I'm so sorry." So that's how you know, like when other NFBC players are saying, "Oh man, you got a terrible league." That's when you know you got a really bad league.
Now, do you have someone like Casey or Phil drafting 14th?
Phil is 13th.
Okay. So kind of there, like I was just thinking of people
Casey's
who
in
kind of hem you in where maybe you're like, okay, I'm 15, but maybe someone will kind of fall. Like
Casey got his first choice, so that was nice.
Did he? And his first choice was in the middle?
Yeah, he chose 6th.
6. That's interesting. I think my first choice right now would be about 8 or so. It would be just a little. I feel like Ellie, Ramirez, Soto, Gunnar, Tucker, sure. All the above, you know what I mean? So I'm fine with any of them. So I feel like I'd be more like 8th. But yeah, anyways, I'm interested to see who he takes out of 6th then. Why 6th? I'd be interested in that.
So I'm drafting 15th on the wheel. I was the 12th name chosen out of the pot to choose a draft slot.
Okay.
It was like my 9th or 10th preference. It's not great. And the fact that Mookie Betts is like all of a sudden a guy I don't necessarily want there. He's not going to play in the Tokyo games. He's lost 15 pounds apparently. He weighs 180. He's listed at 180. And now he's at, if he's lost 15 pounds, he doesn't have 15 pounds to lose. So I don't, I'm a little nervous about that. I feel like one of the attractions to drafting 15 is your pool is a little, I think there's like a top tier of about 18, 19 players. So you're going to get 2 of them if you're at the end of the draft, whereas others aren't.
Yeah, that's right. I think 15 can be fine. You like Lindor a lot. His ADP is 16, so there's a pretty good chance that he can make it all the way down to you. I would still be in for Mookie Betts. Like we're still, he's just such a good athlete. Like it's a long season. We're still 9 days away from his, like it's 2 games over there. Yep. Like we're 9 days away from his Back in America opener. He could get a lot better in 9 days. If you're really scared off by Betts, Yordan Alvarez is there, ADP 18. Like I think he's a really nice.
Just doesn't run. That's
one of the for sure, but one of the absolute best hitters in baseball. I still think with Yordan Alvarez, like I think he'll probably just keep doing what he's doing, but I do think there's a chance to just, as he's in his prime, we just get 1 year of like 45 home runs, 43 home runs, something. Like I just do feel like he's just such a good all around hitter. I feel like there's that chance. So I think any of those, like I feel like I would go after 2 of those guys. I know Tatis is there on the turn too, but you're not a big Tatis guy and neither am I. I guess I'm
afraid I'm going to be stuck with this proposition that I'm not on Tatis, and yet he's one of the guys there. And I'm going to be like, oh, all off season, you've been saying you're not on Tatis. And that's.
Well, I think you would take Lindor over him. So then I guess the decision is Tatis versus maybe a sick Mookie Betts or a no-speed Yordan Alvarez. Although we've been saying you can get speed throughout the draft.
Yeah, I just would be forced to go that way. And that's okay. I want at least one high average guy with one of those 2 picks. And Yordan is definitely that. So
and comparing him with Lindor, that's one thing Lindor's not really. Like you hope he hits 270, but it could be 258 or something. So but 30-30, a 30-30 type guy to go along with like a 35-300 type guy. That's a nice base for sure.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So and then I think, but then you have no pitchers. So, because Skeens and Scooble probably won't make it to you, so they haven't been making it that far, really. So, unless you want to jump up at the other pitchers, but then okay. So I teased earlier. So, me personally, then on the 3-4 turn, I would probably take a closer and a hitter. So I don't know which to like. I would take Devin Williams if he's there. If he's not, whatever, I'll find another closer that I want to take. And then I would probably take a hitter. I've warmed back up to Devers now that he's warmed up to being the DH. So if he's healthy enough to open the season as a DH, like I don't mind him at all. That's a neat. That would be a neat base of having Alvarez and Devers as far as just like a batting average RBI type base. Corey Seager, I think, is a nice one there.
I'd love to get Seaver at 45. If
well,
I
his
can get
ADP's 50. So
well, I there's a good chance I end up with him then.
now you got two shortstops with Lindor and Seager, but your utility's still open if you want a third one.
Yeah, we'll see about that. But yeah, I love Seager. Again, no bags. It'd be two out of my top 3 without bags. That's tough. That really does put to the test the notion that you can find stolen bases late. Yep. If I have a continuing thread throughout my drafts is that I end up being light in stolen bases. I guess and the thing is, I don't like only stolen base guys. I really hate them. Because if they don't, there's a chance those guys usually don't hit as well. And when they don't hit as well, they lose their job. And then you don't even get the stolen bases. You get the Lionel DeShields Jr., you get Malik Smith. I'm trying to avoid that. That would be the brutal finishing spot there. So we'll see.
And then I was going to say, I would probably double tap starters on my next turn. So I get 3 really good hitters and a closer. And then just because I don't love the starters in the main event who are still available, you'd have for me, it would be Cease. I don't know if I take Cease. I think I might rather get a closer and a hitter. And then I just feel like on that 5-6 turn, so just looking at pitchers who go a little before or a little after, we've got Pablo Lopez, Spencer Schwellenbach, Tyler Glasnow, Bailey Ober, Tanner Bybee, Joe Ryan's down there in round 6, Aaron Nola, Strider, although we don't think he'll last that long anymore, Hunter Brown. I just take your pick. It would be me sitting down and spending probably, if I was in your draft, a lot of time. That's where I'd probably be spending a lot of time is taking that group of 10 pitchers that I just named and figuring out an order of 3 or 4 of them that I would take. And then I'd probably double tap their starters. I don't know if you can win.
I think that's a reasonable roadmap. I could see that happening. I could see that be one round.
Can you win the main event not taking a starter until round 5?
I think you can. I tried to do that last year. It didn't quite work. In part though, I took Evan Phillips as my closer at the other end at the 4-5 turn. And obviously that didn't work out super well. So
the alternative to that would be that you take someone instead of taking someone like Corey Seager, you take Dylan Cease. And then instead of taking one of the pitchers on the 5-6 turn, maybe you take Ozzie Albies, who's pick 75, Schwarber, Matt McClain is early in the 6th round. So that's not bad either. If you want to get some bags, maybe you pass on Seager and you take Dylan Cease, who's got more strikeouts. And then on this 5-6 turn, maybe you take Matt McClain and 1 starter, or Ozzie Albies and 1 starter. I could see the merit in that one as well.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. All right. I want to review Tout Wars. First, though, we're on the Blue Wire Network. Here are their ads. All right. Thank you for those of you who are listening on the podcast and listen to those ads. Thanks to Blue Wire for hosting us. Let us talk Tout Wars, and I am going to put up the grid. This is an AL only auction, just so people realize it's OBP instead of batting average. And, we have a couple of other unique rules, one of which is that instead of your typical roster, we have 1 extra infield spot, 4 outfield spots, a UT, and 2 swing guys. The swing position can be a pitcher, can be a hitter, can be anything. You could have 3 UTs if you wanted to. So as a result, DHs aren't really discounted that much because you have the 3 spots to put them in. I think that's one of the unique things about this league. So it's a fun auction. It was Saturday morning. It's the first of the live auctions, and just had a lot of fun doing this.
Yeah, I like the team you got. I mentioned some of the picks of yours that I like the most. So let's start there. Always start with the good stuff. I really liked Kerry Carpenter at 15. I think
I did too.
If he can't hit lefties, then I think 15's fair. But I think there's maybe a chance he does a little better against lefties this year and gets you $20-something. I thought Tyler Holton at $2 in an AL only is terrific. He's someone who gets drafted sometimes in mixed leagues. He's just been great the last couple of years as a reliever. And again, he's not exciting in a mixed league, but in an AL only, if you can leave him in your lineup all season and get what he's done the last couple of years, I think that's great. Corey Seager at 29, I thought was really good. I think that's really fair value.
I did too.
Yeah. Jaron Duran, same thing at 31, I thought was good. was nice value. I'm usually like to get some expensive hitters even in an only, like the 2 years I did NL only, I spent a lot on like elite hitters and went more stars than scrubs than a lot of people do in an only. So I like those picks. And I like your Bailey Ober as your ace. I think in an AL only at $17, I think that's a good deal. Like I saw some pitchers, like I like him a lot more than Brian Wu, who's at 17. I like him more than Bryce Miller, who was 18. I like him more than Luis Castillo, who was 19. So I thought that was a good value. So
well, thank you.
Were some of yours. And I liked your Harrison Bader for $1. Harrison Bader's going to play against all lefties, and then there's going to be a time where Byron Buxton or someone else is hurt, and then he's going to play all the time. He's not good in OBP. That is a problem with him.
This is why I got him for $1.
But in an AL only, I think I got him in Tout Wars draft and hold in like round 38 or something like that. I just think that there's a decent chance that at the end of the season he has like 8 homers and 13 or 14 steals. And again, in an only, that'll all be in your lineup. I'm hoping in my draft and hold that there'll just be stretches where he's an everyday player when Buxton's out, and I'll use him and suck up the poor OBPs. So, anyways, I think he's just got a little use because there's some power and some speed there.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, I was hurting for outfielders at this point in time. Mm-hmm. This is in the end game, and if I have a regret, it's that I got like one extra pitcher around $10. I think that would have been better spent getting one more outfielder. Or alternatively, I spent like 10 on Carlos Santana, who's great in an OBP. Maybe not great. I may be overstating the case, but he's much better in OBP than a batting average league. He's going to play every day as well for the Guardians. So it was fine. But would I have been better allocating that towards another outfielder? Probably. Some pretty bad outfielders that are rostered though. And you get in an AL only. Like there's a couple of my targets. I was annoyed. Here, Patrick Davitt got JJ Bleday for 16. He had the hammer late in the end game there. And so he was picking off all these guys in the teens. And later he told me, he goes, I wanted to get everybody in the teens. He messed up a little bit there by getting a $22 Duran and a $20 Bautista. But for the most part, he wanted to have and he does have a roster full of teens minus one guy that's, one hitter that's less than $10. But he by design, this is what he was shopping in. Like, okay, that's great. Thanks. Nice. He also left some money on the table too. So I'm going to get a little salty with him.
He also drafted 9 relievers and no starters.
Yes, he did. He did. So that was his plan all along. It's a way to kind of build a killer offense. You have producers at every single spot. I like it and there, by the way, there is no innings minimum in Tout Wars. So you can get away with this there. You have Doug Dennis has won multiple times using a similar sort of strategy there. So that is something, and when someone does that raises the cost of every single hitter, especially these mid-tier guys. In retrospect, I'm actually kind of happy building the lineup I did. So we'll see if that works out okay. But
I will throw out, I loved Cade Povich on your bench.
Yes,
I can't believe Cade Povich, who should be in Baltimore's season opening rotation, made it to the reserve round. And it looks like if they were entered in order, that made it to the 3rd round,
the second to last pick of the 3rd round. No less, my friend.
So to put that in perspective, I think I'm going to take him in a league tonight, like in a mixed league.
Yeah.
Like in the regular part of the draft, he's been drafted in every main event league with an ADP of 356. Like 356 isn't even the end of the draft. It's a few rounds before the end of the draft. So I don't understand how he didn't get drafted in, right? Like I don't understand how he didn't get drafted. I just took Cade Povich. There you go, round 28 in a mix.
Bam.
So he was just sitting at the top of my queue and
live drafting.
Talking about him. It's fate. But I don't understand how I would have taken him, for example, over your Luis Garcia. I know why you took Luis Garcia because you can stash him. I get that, I guess. But I don't know. I just look at some of these other guys, Kevin Kelly, Louis Varland. I would rather have Cade Povich, who's opening the season in the rotation on a good team. I still think has plenty of potential as a prospect. So I think that one's really good. Yeah.
It could work out. It's more fun with you telling me what I did wrong though.
I don't know if you did
let's hear it
wrong, but my 2 least favorite picks, Yainer Diaz at $17. I just feel like with him, I'm not really on him this year as much as, or I have him just a few spots in the catcher pool below most people. And then in this particular league, because his walk rate is so low, I just don't really like him. So his walk rate's really low. It means he's not going to be an OBP guy at all. And then he hits so many ground balls that he's not going to be. So I feel like to be a good pick at $17. Right. He probably needs to do one or the other. Like he needs to either hit some more fly balls and get back to that 23 homer mark he was at 2 years ago, or he needs to walk more and boost that 317 OBP. So I just felt like 17 is a lot for him. Like I think in this format, I'd probably rather have Austin Wells, who went for 16, Shea Langoliers, who went for 15. I don't know. There are some other catcher values people had that I did not like at all. So I do like him more. I won't name them because I won't call out some other people, but I do like him more than some of the other catcher values. So, and then my other one was bigger than Diaz, maybe, was Jonathan Aranda. I just think there's a lot of potential there. But 13, is it like a pretty significant bid? I don't know. I just haven't been in on him yet. I don't think he's going to play against lefties at all. So I feel like at best, what you've got is a platoon, like a strong side platoon guy. He could be good. He was certainly really good at times in the minors, but I don't know. I just haven't been in on him this year.
Yeah. The thing about Aranda is he closed well, and maybe that's what has me excited. I think the Rays are expecting Aranda to play against righties, at least. That's the good side of a platoon. And a good side of a platoon in an AL only league is good enough for me. And the fact that they're playing in Steinbrenner Field, which mirrors Yankee Stadium in terms of dimensions, which means left-handed power should benefit. That is enough for me to be interested. You're right. I probably spent a couple extra bucks. That's the dynamics of an auction, though, too. All it takes is one other traveler. Like I would have liked to spend 9 on him. Maybe I should have just let him go by at 12. And I did end up with, I have 2 other first base eligible players. So but I got Aranda first. That was the thing. I got Soderstrom later for 11, and I prefer Soderstrom, to be honest with you. So we'll see. The other thing I wanted to mention is the dynamics of this. All the catchers came out early.
Interesting.
We kept on I think a couple of the catchers just got thrown out early. And then we just kept going with it there. So I think catcher prices naturally are a little inflated. And so, I kind of acknowledge that Diaz might be a little high for the format. But you'll notice like Raleigh went for 23, Rushman for 22, Sal Perez 19. I'm just looking at some of the other ones here. Bear with me if you're looking at me. If you're looking at my screen share and I'm going sideways.
And I was going to say Sal Perez is not an OBP guy either.
Yeah.
So he's maybe a little more of a locked-in power source than Diaz. But I didn't mention this one, but maybe my favorite pick of yours, and I mentioned it in our notes before we started, but Kristian Campbell for 7. I think there's a really good chance that by this weekend, Kristian Campbell's named Boston's second baseman, and all of a sudden, if he gets named Boston's second baseman, and you redid the draft this coming weekend, like he goes, I think, for double that, at least. Like
probably
as a potential 2020 guy who's like, we're talking one of the best prospects in baseball. Like if he's named Boston's second baseman, and was some news today that the lineup they used today was supposed to be like a little opening day, like he's hitting 7th, Grissom's not in the game. If he's up, he's playing. Like he's one of the best prospects in baseball. They're not going to bring him up and not play him. So I don't know. I think that one could be a steal. Like I said, like if he was on the opening day roster, he goes for more than a strong side platoon Jonathan Aranda.
But it's interesting. This was just 2 days ago that we did this.
It was the news today. I felt a little bit that boost Kristian Campbell for me. Just if anyone who's watching right now wants to Google search his name and see the most recent news articles, a bunch came out today kind of projecting Red Sox opening day lineups and rosters and putting him on it.
For sure. And here's the other thing is the really funny thing is I didn't go into Tout Wars expecting to get Campbell. Just kind of stopped. And my experience last year with Jackson Holiday might suggest that, might be why, you see that, can't miss prospect missed. at least for 1 year. So
Yeah,
I think that,
for sure.
and the thing is, if he does miss, I also backed him up with David Hamilton. Yeah, I think that there. So our note on Campbell says the opposite of what you suggest, though. Campbell said he's still fine-tuning his defense and has struggled a little bit this spring training. There might be some thought that he loses the job to David Hamilton. Well, I also have Hamilton for 5. So you combine the two, and I have another second base eligible guy on my bench on reserve. So I really kind of made a point of like, okay, I'm going to have some redundancies here if this doesn't work out. Just scrolling down, I have Tyler Freeman, who's second base and outfield eligible on my bench, along with Zach DeCenzo, who's also outfield eligible. Right? My 2 weakest spots, I wanted to back up a little bit there.
So here's the title of the MLB.com article that came out at 6:05 Eastern today.
Dun, dun, dun.
Campbell strengthens case for opening day roster with defensive masterclass.
That is so
masterclass. That is a well-written headline, first of all. Whoever came up with that one is a well-written headline. But anyways, so like you said, from the most recent note we had, which we'll probably have a new one by tonight or tomorrow, like about how well he did today. So played great defense today. I think he ripped a double at one point today too. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Just take the credit. I'm giving you credit for making an amazing pick.
Well, I'll tell you what, between the two, I spent 12, and if Campbell wins the job, he goes for 15 probably. Well, then okay, I got a discount. So
I mean, Jason Dominguez went for 18. Like if Campbell's up and he's their everyday second baseman, what's the difference? Not much. And then
Campbell's not hitting well in spring training, though. Just for the record,
I know.
He's 5 for 33 with 13 Ks.
He kind of started really, really bad, and then he's picked it up a little bit recently. Now I'm just,
that is true.
Now I'm just Campbell's lawyer, but
yeah.
And like you said, with you having Hamilton, your ideal scenario is Campbell's the second baseman and Hamilton plays sparingly and still gets you that $5 just stealing bases and then filling, maybe having stretches because Hamilton can also play the outfield, having stretches where he maybe plays a little more often. So, I mean, to put it also in perspective, you got Campbell for $1 more than Roman Anthony, who's like also like a really awesome prospect, maybe even a better prospect, but is definitely not going to be on the opening day roster.
Right.
And I don't mind stashing Anthony, especially in an only, but $1 difference in Campbell, it looks like has a much better chance to get a lot of plate appearances this year.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to play if you're going to help.
So. Yeah. So and the thing is, like I built in some redundancies. Plus, Tout Wars rules allow me to slide in a pitcher if I want.
Yeah.
While when Campbell is down. So I kind of wanted to, give myself that functionality there, that flexibility. I felt like I didn't have that last year. Now, one key injury could just scuttle all those plans, and we could be talking about how I messed up Tout Wars again this year too. So we'll see about that.
Yes.
Usually we open with news and notes, but I figure everybody gets a lot of news and notes. We'll be sure to have more of that, of course, over spring and, over all of our other podcasts, but we're already 75 minutes into this podcast. So, Mookie, we kind of mentioned him in passing too. Mookie Betts isn't going to play in the Tokyo games. Royce Lewis got hurt. We alluded to that. Clarke Schmidt, we alluded to. Tobias Myers got an oblique issue. He's going to begin the year on the IL. Max Scherzer. Let's mention Max Scherzer real quick. That's one we should probably talk about. He mentioned that he's having problems with his thumb and it bothers him after about 50 pitches and that he's been dealing with this since 2023. And he says that affects his arm health issues as well. I can't get more discouraged.
That's terrible. That sounds so terrible.
The more that came out on this, the worse I felt about it. Like, I thought, okay, maybe he's got a blister. No, it hurts him to grip the ball, Fred.
I know the way he described it, it sounded so bad, but they still haven't ruled him out of taking his first turn in the rotation. So I don't really know what's going to happen, but the way he described it, he is one of the tougher players in baseball, but like, if you can't grip the ball and throw the ball and like, yeah, the way he described. So actually, full disclosure, to bring this whole story full circle, when I passed on Clarke Schmidt in a draft today, in a slow draft, because of his shoulder, I pivoted to Max Scherzer.
Oh, no.
Then a few hours later, I got the Scherzer news, but then I got the Schmidt news, and then it was my turn again. So then I just took Schmidt. So, it was like, it was like from the original pick, once I saw the Scherzer news, I was like, oh, I wish I had taken Schmidt. But then I got Schmidt anyways. So, and now it's like, oh, well, I can just rationalize that I got Scherzer 2 rounds later, or whatever, however it worked out.
You'll be spending the time like ILing either Scherzer or Schmidt. I'll be spending my time cutting David Festa, who got sent down.
Yes, I think I have one Festa somewhere, maybe.
I have a
Yeah.
festival of Festas. It's
Yeah.
bad.
You're not holding, is that right?
I don't think I can,
So
but I get Ober vibes because Bailey Ober got sent down 2 years ago, if you recall, to start the season, and then got called
right.
up like 2 weeks later and was great. So I'm hesitant to cut
The
Festa.
the problem with Festa is who comes next, him or Zebby Mathews.
Yeah, Matthews was probably having a better swing season
I
than
just think
Festa.
there's not an answer to that. Like it might
Mhm.
depend how each one of them starts off their minor league season. That's the problem with holding Festa. If I'm holding a guy, I think
Mhm.
I want to probably know that he's next. I don't
Yep.
know, or have a timeline. So you're right. I think I'm in a draft or two now where he's still sitting on the board, and I already have like an injured guy or something. Well, I have Clarke Schmidt probably, who's I'm worried about. Either way, I think I'm just not going to draft him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's other job battles that will get some opportunities. Hayden Birdsong or
Yes.
Landon Roop, maybe both. Just
Both would be
stop with
amazing. But
the Jordan Hicks thing needs to just stop. Just go away.
put him back in the bullpen. He was fine as a reliever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what I
Yep.
want. I like
Yep.
both those. I like both those guys
Yep.
a lot. Birdsong's got like 18-0
Oh.
K to walk this spring. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, give me that.
Yep. Yeah, I've got a bit of FOMO on Hayden Birdsong. I don't know if I have any shares. I might have one.
I have some early ones.
Yeah. So I'm kind of I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, I would love to see them both. I think it'll just be one because they seem like Hicks is going to be in the rotation. I'll put my money right now on Birdsong, but we'll see.
Yep.
We already mentioned Cade Povich as someone who has a rotation spot and has moved up draft boards. I haven't taken any Kumar Rocker. He's actually not surging up draft boards like I thought he would now that he has a clear path to rotation spot, but he hasn't pitched great in spring training.
No, he's been terrible, but everybody's falling off though, too. I mean, Cody Bradford's out for a long period of time. That, we just saw the bad news on who is it? I'm spacing on the guy that got hurt.
John Gray.
John Gray. Thank you.
Yeah. Cody Bradford and John Gray.
John Gray's out for a long time with that broken wrist.
Yeah. But it's like, so now I feel like the issue with Rocker is that people maybe just aren't totally convinced that he's going to be like really effective. Maybe it's the bad spring. Because otherwise I thought he would surge up. His main event ADP is 314. I thought Kumar Rocker, what he did late last season, his name value, his draft value, like MLB draft value, I thought if you knew he had a rotation spot, I thought he would be like picked like 214, not 314.
No, but Kumar Rocker, what has he done? I mean,
nothing. Yeah, well, he's been hurt.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, even the minor leagues, he's pitched what, 16 games?
Yeah.
He doesn't have 100 innings to his credit. He got called up, and he struck out 14 and 11 and 2/3. He also walked 6. I'm a little worried about that too. I'm in on Rocker over Leiter, even though Leiter's got these velocity improvements, but the walks are still there. That's the thing I'm worried about with Jack Leiter. I haven't been on Jack Leiter.
So Kumar Rocker in the minors, he's only thrown 64 innings, but he has a 2.78 ERA, a 0.88 WHIP, and his K per 9. I'm just going to do ballparking in my head would be about 14. Like it's ridiculous.
Those are good.
Yeah.
Those are good. You're right.
So
maybe I should be more in on Rocker.
And we're talking about a guy third in the draft.
And remember when he was at Vanderbilt before he got hurt, it was him and Leiter together. Remember?
Yeah.
And Rocker was going to be the 1.1 at one point in time, and then he got hurt. He still was a first round pick. So maybe I should be more open to that possibility. I just feel like this isn't the year.
It's the bad spring. I think it's turning everyone off because in the main, that's where people chase upside.
Yeah.
So you're talking like round 20, you can get this guy with so much upside, like with, like I said, like a 14-ish K per 9 in the minors and a clear rotation spot and nobody's taking him even in round 20. So he's going to round 21. Like he's sitting around Will Warren, some of those guys. Like, I don't know. I thought he would go higher. Casey Mize is going ahead of him. Max Meyer.
Casey Mize is having a velocity increases
Luis
too.
Severino is ahead of him.
Yep.
David Peterson is ahead of him. I did not think this would be the case. If Kumar Rocker had a rotation spot, I did not think someone like David Peterson. Chris Bubich is ahead of him.
I like Chris Bubich.
Sure. I thought people
kind of like Peterson too, but
yeah. So I thought people would be more, like I say, going nuts for Rocker, but
the problem with liking all these guys is everybody else likes all these guys, and everyone's picking pitcher in this range. You're going to get 2 to 3 of them. You're not going to get, and you don't want a staff full of them either, because they're volatile. I mean, you want 2 or 3 of them, and hopefully
it's true. Yes, you're right. You can only draft. You do need some just like Nestor Cortes guys, to go back to something that I mentioned, or even just like an Aaron Savali, like just you need some Jameson Tyone we've talked about.
I land on Tyon way too much.
Me too. I have him in a couple of leagues for sure. Like you need some of those guys. It's like you need a mix of those guys with the Ryan Weathers and the Max Myers. Like you can take a couple shots on those types, but there's a decent chance they don't turn out. I'll tell you this: Merrill Kelly's sitting around all the guys I just mentioned.
Another one of Erickson's favorite hits, right there.
I'd rather take him. I know he's boring. I'd rather take Merrill Kelly than all of these.
There's also a risk of having too many guys like that too. I know the world needs ditch diggers too, but you don't want to have a rotation full of them. You need a couple of them.
I find I kind of tend to take Kelly and Cortes and some of these guys around that range, and then later I'll take my shots
flashes. Yeah,
but I don't get as good shots by then, because the preferred shots are gone by then. But maybe I get a Michael Soroka, Hayden Wisniewski. Those guys are all later down the list. They're not as buzzy as the guys that we talked about. Birdsong's actually pretty far down the list still, because he doesn't have that rotation spot yet.
You do need those filler, not even fillers. That's not fair, but you need solid guys in the rotation.
Yes.
The problem is those solid guys, you kind of have to spot a little bit too. You got to make sure that you're not starting him against the Dodgers, not starting him against the Phillies, and probably the Mets, at least in the Braves, if they've got everybody. You got to be careful with those guys. The guys that don't miss enough bats, they're a little scary. But that's true of almost every pitcher too. So there you go.
But it's like you need like a Savali type guy on your bench, I feel like, just so that when one of your other guys is facing the Dodgers, the Braves, if you're like, okay, well, I'll take him out, I'll throw Savali in for this week.
Exactly.
And then Savali ends up starting 3/4 of the weeks, because there's a quarter of the weeks you don't want to start him either. But he ends up starting 3/4 of the weeks, and then you get the injuries and things like that. But I don't know. I think those like boring pitchers, you need, like, I agree with you. You need some. You don't need all of them, but you need some.
Yep. Exactly right.
For sure.
All right. I think we're going to end on that note there, Fred. Good stuff. As always, the Fred's list, if you will, not Craigslist, but Fred's list.
Is Craigslist still a thing? I think, I don't know.
It is.
I haven't used that in forever. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for jumping in on the stream. I love the dialogue that we had going on there. So thanks for jumping everyone there. Thanks to FanTrax and of course the NFBC for their sponsorship. And James Anderson will be with you on Wednesday. Make sure to check out. We had a special one today earlier. 10 risers. Clay Link and Eric Halterman did that. Some really good stuff. They're fresh off of Tout War. So I'm going to tune into that later. So check that out if you haven't already. Just wherever you search RotoWire in your podcast, it will be there. Thanks everybody for listening. Have a great day.